unexpected craft and chat episode. I'm your host for today. My name is Jaya, Jaya from Hobby, and yeah, I'm excited about today's episode. It is, as you can see, in a very different setting. Welcome to my living room. Um, Today it's a little bit different than usual. We're not doing today's craft and chat from the studio. And that is because, well, first of all, Louisa is on holiday. She is enjoying a lovely, lovely, I think it's more than a week in France, enjoying the sunshine in southern France and having her little hikes and enjoying lovely baguettes and wine. Very jealous of you, Lulu, if you're watching. And I am stuck being sick at home. Uh, we didn't want to cancel today's event despite me being a little sick, mostly because we're really looking forward to starting off this KAL with you, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to work on a project all together. So thank you so much for joining me. And even if you're just watching and you're not actually knitting the KAL with us, so what? I'm just very, very happy that you're part of our little tiny craft and chat community here. Um, I have my project here. So just a little recap about what happened last week. So last week, Lou and I, was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, because last week it was quiz time with Matthias. So 2 weeks ago, Lou and I had just got our orders. We had ordered our materials, our yarns. And we basically started off by making a swatch, mostly because this pattern requires you to make a swatch. The stitches are not a lot, so you really have to make sure that you are matching the gauge swatch to just avoid surprises, so to avoid that your pattern is too small or too big in the end. So we ordered our yarns, we got them in, we unpacked them, we fangirled over the beautiful colors that we got. And well, today the plan is to walk you through some of the steps that we are going to be doing in the next few craft and chat sessions. So walking you through the pattern, which if you don't already do, it is quite, in my opinion, and this is like just me, right? It's quite important to read the pattern before you start your project. And I know that a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, including myself, I also do that. A lot of people just go ahead and start a pattern and then then they realize mid-pattern that, oops, oh, I had to do this before I had to do that part. So we're just gonna scrape all of that away. We don't want to have any surprises, so we are going to read through the pattern, which I recommend that you do with every single project that you're starting. So with that in mind, like I said, have the stuff with me, have a lot of little things to show you guys today, and we're also going to be basically starting off. But before we do that, reminder that you can still buy the yarn. So we are starting officially next week when Lou is back from her holiday. And I prepared a lot of stuff for today's craft and chat. I prepared a lot of little triggers to help you guys out that you can maybe save, links and so forth. And also the opportunity to still buy the yarn if you are thinking about joining. So first and foremost, remember that you can get, and this is a very exclusive deal, 50% off on our kit silk, our little kit silk here. 50% off in the next couple of hours. I don't know if we can extend this to 24 hours. I'm crossing fingers that I can. But hurry up. If you are actually thinking about joining the Suki KAL, then just go ahead and do it because it's 50% off, just like it was 2 weeks ago. So last chance. But you can, of course, also use your scraps at home of kit silk. And I really encourage you to do so. It's going to be wonderful to see a lot of different combinations of colors, and you don't have to make it in one solid color. You can also go ahead and combine colors together. I love doing that, and I think that the result is really, really unique. So yeah, 50% off. And if you want to get the link to buy the Suki, just write CC50 in the comment section right now, and then we will send you a little link that takes you to the landing page. CC50 is also pretty much available if you want to get your hands on the Suki pattern, because CC50 just takes you to our landing page. So it's the products and the patterns we're talking about usually in Craft and Chat. But of course, remember that if you want a direct link to the Suki pattern, just write Suki1, and that's SUKI1, Suki1. You can also write SOOKI for that matter. I made sure to add a lot of different trigger words in case we mess up and we write differently and so forth. So Suki1 if you want to get the Suki pattern, and CC50 if you want to buy the Friends Kit Silk. I do have also a surprise for you guys, something that launched this morning. And I'm super pumped about that because it's super cute. I'm gonna show you guys later. I don't have those products with me today because I'm at home, but I promise that we will bring them and show them live in the next week. I will, however, mention them when the time is ready. So without further ado, let me bring to you my mess here. Because it's always a mess when you work with Kit Silk, especially if you're working with several strands together. So I mentioned in the previous Craft and Chat episodes, I am going to be working on 2 different Suki slipovers. So I have one that is made in this beautiful, beautiful orange red. This is kind of like my own remix, my own adaptation of the pattern, and I will walk you through the changes I have made. But then I also have, or I will be making, the Suki pattern in this beautiful, beautiful green. Now, mind you that my webcam on my laptop doesn't show the true colors, the true beautiful colors. This is actually a little bit more vivid than you see it here. It's much more saturated. So it's actually a really, really beautiful, kind of like a pear-like color. Super, super gorgeous. But yeah, let's get to the Suki pattern. Let's start with that. So remember, Suki, SUKI1, if you want to download the pattern right now and look through it with me. If you already have it, then grab a pen. Maybe you want to make some notes. So it says here, and this is actually quite sweet because I had a chat with Maria about the pattern itself, and she did mention that, oh, if you're making a KAL out of it, let me add some more sizes, because you might want to be a little bit more inclusive. The original idea that she didn't add more sizes to this was because this particular vest is already quite oversized, so it's already on the big size. But she said that it's actually extremely easy to scale it up. So I'm going to get to that in a second, because that's what I've done to my red one. I actually knitted it a size up, so a larger size than what the pattern actually shows. So it's available in S, M, L, XL, and 2XL. And I am basically making a 3XL version. And that's actually quite easy to do, because the slipover has a positive ease of about 15 to 20 centimeters. So that is about 8 to, I don't want to say stupid stuff, but it's definitely more than 8 inches larger than the pattern or the sizing, the official sizing shows. So the way you would measure to know your size is just grab a little meter and measure around. And if it says, for instance, actually, I think I also have it in inches. Yeah, for instance, say I'm a size 50 inches around my bust. That is a size XL, also known as 127 centimeters. So if you are a size 50 inches, that means that you have to do an XL. But the final product, so when you end up finishing your pattern won't have a circumference of 50 inches, but it will actually have a circumference of 58 inches. So you have to add that extra positive ease into consideration as well. And if we're talking about centimeters, so if you are making a size, let's say double XL, so 2XL, that's 136 centimeters around your bust, which is an equivalent of an equivalent of 136 plus 15. I cannot math. That will be 150 boop, 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 something. You guys do the math. Okay, I will do the math and I will use my computer. My computer. I will use my little computer. So 136 centimeters plus 15 centimeters of positive ease. That's 151. Okay, I was close. I was close. I was close. I said 150 something. I was close. So if you want a tighter fit, then of course we do recommend that you go a size down. But now this particular vest or slipover, the beautiful thing around it is that it's very airy and it's very, kind of has this mystical feel around it. It has this fairy tale vibe around it, this mood that is very fluffy and airy. And so I personally think that it is nice to have it oversized, mostly because I think this would look very, very beautiful over like a summer dress, or over a nice shirt as well. And since everything is oversized nowadays, even shirts and so forth, it would be nice to have. Imagine you have an oversized shirt that is a little bit, fluffy and drapey and so forth. Then having a slip over that is very, very tight, it's not going to flatten. It's not going to flatter it too much. So it is nicer, in my opinion, to have it oversized. So I really like it. I like that it's a very boxy look as well. And yeah. So that's in terms of sizing. So pick your size, measure yourself around your bust, and figure out, do I want this to be a little bit on the tight side, or do I want to be I want it to be on I want it to be on the fluffy airy side, and then figure out the size that you are going to make. In terms of scaling this pattern, and do remember that if you do so, then you will have to buy extra skeins. But if we are to scroll down, we can see in the pattern that it says that when you cast on, and this is really interesting, when you cast on, you can cast on 110, 120, 130, 150, 100 and so forth, right? So that means that if for each size you just need to cast on 10 extra stitches, then it's actually quite easy to go ahead and simply add 10 stitches to make it a size bigger. So for the red one I'm making here, this red baby, the pattern obviously, oops, I dropped some stitches. I'm gonna rescue that because I don't want to have any drama. So like I said, for this particular one, of course I wanted it to be a 3XL because I just wanted a slightly larger size. And I also wasn't very sure if I did this the right way, because technically speaking, I will figure out down the line if I screwed up the whole thing, and then down the line when I have to set some of the stitches to rest when I'm making the sleeves and not sleeves, but when I'm leaving the holes for the sleeves. I will see if I messed this up and if I should have done it differently, but I'm thinking not. Probably, I think we'll figure it out. And if you want to make a bigger size, do not worry. We will figure it out together, and we will find and readapt, and we will see. Worst case scenario, I can also ask Maria to size this up for us so that we can have an updated version. If we can't figure it out together, you and me, or us, all of us together. So find out your sizing, and then order the yarn you need. or find the yarn you need in your stash. And let's look a little bit what we need in terms of tools. So if you are making an S to an M, or like the first two sizes, then you will need obviously a shorter cable on your needles. But if you're making a size large XL or double XL or larger, then you need a larger cable. We are using circular needles, and I'm sure that yes, you can do this with very extremely long sock needles as well, with double pointed needles, but that's also a little bit more unhandy. So I do recommend using cable needles. And don't be scared if you've never, ever in your life worked with cable needles and they frighten you. There's nothing to be scared of, because this is basically a long needle that is just a little squiggly and soft in the middle, basically, right? So don't let that scare you off. It's actually, funnily enough, when I started knitting, I loved knitting on those big, big, long needles. It felt like it was the original and the true way of knitting. You had to have those like long sticks, right? But it turns out that as soon as I tried with cable needles, I was like, oh, okay, that's more handy and makes more sense. So you need to get yourself 8 millimeter 8 millimeter needles. That's a US size 11. And you need the 80 centimeter cable long. That's a 32 inch if you're making S and M, or a 39 centimeters cable if you are making a larger size. I am making a very large size. I'm making the 3XL on this one, but I'm still using the 80 centimeter cables. It doesn't change much. It really doesn't. Of course, you have a little bit more space if you're using the 39 inches or the 100 centimeters long, or the 1 meter long cable, but it doesn't really make a difference. You can use the 80 centimeters, no problemo. So they're 32, no matter what size you make. And then, of course, the total amount of skeins we are using for each size is 5 skeins if you're making the smallest one, the S. You need 6 skeins if you're making the M or the L. You need 7 skeins for the XL and 8 skeins for the 2XL. Now that is where I screwed up a little bit, because I had initially ordered 8 skeins, and I just went ahead and cast it on, la 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 la, and I started working, and it was only, I think, 2 days ago when I realized, hey, wait a second, if I'm making a larger size, then I'm not going to have enough yarn. So to me, or as we say in Danish, congratulations to me, that also means that I have to start ordering some more yarns, and I'm crossing fingers to have the same lot number, because it is going to be very, very, very annoying if I end up with 2 different colors. I'm gonna be so angry. So angry. All right. I mentioned earlier make a gauge swatch. And that is what Lou and me have done. We have made a little gauge swatch, because you need to have 11 stitches by 15 rows on a 10 by 10 centimeter gauge swatch, or a 4 by 4 inch gauge swatch, after washing and blocking. Now, neither I or Luisa got that gauge, and let's see if I can hear my secret stash of yarn in there. I realized that because I'm keeping all my need to yarn stash there, I broke this when I sat on the couch the other day. So, yay. So now it's just a matter of fixing it together, and a matter of ordering a new one, because I cannot live without these. So I'm just going to measure again to see how many stitches I actually had. So I need 11 stitches. And let's see here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 13 stitches. insane. Insane. And the rows I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 15 rows, but I have 13 stitches instead of 11. That means that I have 2 stitches more, which is 1 full centimeter or a quarter of an inch, which on the long run is insane because that means I'm going to get a way, 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 way larger slipover. So note it to me that I'm going to have to, for the green vest I'm doing, go down in a needle size. I'm going to make a new swatch just to make sure that if I use 7 millimeter needles, that I'm going to get a 10. That's a 10, size 10 in US terms. I'm going to get the correct. So 11 stitches by 15 rows because, wow, 13 stitches. And if I'm making, so that's 13 stitches every 10 centimeters. And if I am making a 136, how do I do the math here? How do I math? This craft in chat is, Jaya does not know how to 1 + 1. But if I have 136 centimeters in total around, and every 10, you know what? You know what AI is good for? AI is great for this. Let's ask AI live what the answer is. I'm just going to tell the AI that if I have to make I know you're hearing me type, a vest that is 136 centimeters, but every 10th centimeter I have, was it 2 extra stitches? Yes, 2 extra stitches equivalent to 1 centimeters. How much bigger is my vest? I'm not sure I gave it the right information. So if I have to make a vest that is 136 centimeters, not wide, that has a circumference of 136 centimeters, where every 10 centimeters I should have 11 stitches. Oops, 11 stitches, but every 10th, but I have, there we go, but I have 2 extra stitches. So 13 in total every 10 centimeters. I love that already people are making the math in the chat. So that means that, oh wow, it's going all crazy. The AI is like, blah, 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 blah. So my vest will actually end up being 11.7 centimeters larger in circumference than needed. And added that, so 11.7 plus we have between 15 and 20 centimeters. I'm gonna say 20 because I'm on the large side. So my vest is gonna actually have a circumference of 168 centimeters instead of 136 plus 20. It's insane. It's actually quite insane how much it grows. But that is all on me because I knew that I'm a very, very loosey-goosey knitter. So I knit so loosely. It's insane. It's really crazy. I am definitely not a tight knitter. I wish I was a tighter knitter because I feel like tighter knitters have a way more uniform result, a more uniform look, really beautiful stitches. But hey, it is what it is. We just gotta live with it and adapt and go down a needle size or up a needle size. So it's not that bad. So the gauge, make sure that you have 11 stitches And if not, if you have more than 11 stitches, be prepared for your project to be much, much larger. And I want to underline again, the sizing, remember, it's however much you are around your bust plus the 15 to 20 centimeters added, which is the positive ease. Now, let's look at the let's look at the what we need to know for making this vest. So you need to obviously know how to knit. You need to know how to purl. You need to know how to knit through the back loop or purl through the back loop. I think it's only knitting through the back loop. You need to know how to join in the round. So you need to know how to cast on and then join in the round. You need to know how to bind off, of course, and how to knit 2 stitches together. Now, all of these techniques are very beginner friendly techniques. I actually this time took the time to be a little bit more prepared than we were last time. So if you guys want to just have a refresher or want to look at some tutorials, we have a few on our YouTube channel. So if you actually write some of the next triggers, then we're going to send you a link to the tutorial that we have. And some of the tutorials are very outdated, as in like they look like they were made 6 years ago because they were made 6 years ago, but they are still universal, so hopefully you will still understand. So we have the how to cast on. So if you write cast on 1, so that's CAST space ON space 1, so cast on or casting on 1, or how do you cast on, or how do I cast on, we are going to send you a link to how to cast on. If you are going to write a knit-1 or knit 1, we're going to send you a tutorial on how to do the knit stitch, which is the little V looking one. And for the purling one, purl-1 or purl 1. Of course, we're going to do some ribbing. So if you want to see how you can rib, it's very, very simple. Ribbing is just a type of pattern that you create alternating stitches of knit and purl. So that means that 1 stitch you knit it, 1 stitch you purl it, 1 stitch you knit it, 1 stitch you purl it. And that gives you a 1 by 1, because it's one of each, rib stitch. I have, if you've noticed here, I have done a 2 by 2 rib stitch, which actually isn't a much more difficult. It is really not, and you can do this if you prefer this look without having to change the number of stitches. But instead of doing knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, you do knit 1, knit 1, purl 1, purl 1, knit 1, knit 1, purl 1, purl 1 until the end of your round, and then you repeat again. So that's a 2 by 2 ribbing. If you want to learn the double rib, which is what it's called, just write double rib 1 in the comment section and we will send you a link to that. Now, the more complicated stitches, is not even complicated, but the more complicated parts of this is obviously how to knit 2 together through the back loop. So knitting 2 together means that instead of just knitting 1 stitch, you knit 2 stitches. But each single stitch has a front loop and a back loop. I like to call them the little footsies, the little feet of the stitch. So I'm going to show you up close what the front loop looks like and what the back loop looks like. So the front loop is obviously the ones you see here, right? And the back loops are the ones you see in the back. Oops, I almost killed my computer. Which means that when you knit the front stitch, you are going to be, I'm going to show you guys. When you knit the front stitch, you are going to be picking up with your working needle the stitch that is in the front. So you are going to be picking up this stitch through the front, so you are picking this one up like this. But if you're knitting through the back loop, then you're going to go through the stitch itself and pick up the one in the back. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It's actually quite easy. But if you want a tutorial where it's quite clear what is happening, then just write, and this is a long one. Are you ready? K2TOG dash TBL. And boy, is that a handful. That is because that is actually the way you are meant to write that specific technique in a pattern. So if you see K2 TOG or K2 TOG, that means knit through the back loop. So if you want to do it, sorry, knit two together. What am I saying? So K stands for knitting, 2 for 2 stitches, of course, and TOG together. So knit through or knit 2 together and then TBL through back loop. You can also just write knit 2, like the number 2, knit 2 together through back loop, and we'll send you a link. Or knit number 2 together, and we'll send you a link to how to knit 2 together. So that is the that is the amount of technicalities that we're going to be covering today, and like I said, let's just run through the pattern really quickly so we can see what's going on. Ooh, people are having fun outside my garden. All right. So information and tips is the first chunk we see in the pattern. And it says here that the slipover is worked bottom up. So that means we start from the bottom and we work our way up on circular needle and stockinette stitch. For those of you who are first time knitters, stockinette means that this is what you get. So you just get the V look. So stockinette is just any kind of fabric that actually only has the knit stitch in the front. Now we're going to do that in stockinette with 3 strands of yarn held together at all the time, like all times. The work is then divided in the front and the back pieces, which are eventually finished separately, and then the stitches are picked up from the ribbing along the neckline and the armholes. Now it's important to have, like we mentioned earlier, the correct gauge, so make a swatch and change to another needle size if necessary, which I'm going to have to do for the green one. I'm going to go from 8 millimeter to a 7 millimeter, so from 11 to a 10. For the body, it says that using the 8 millimeter circular needles, US size 11, or however, whatever needles you're ending up using, you are going to cast on a number of stitches. So in my particular case, 150 for the green one, and then place a stitch marker in the BOR, which stands for beginning of the round. Now, obviously, a little note, and I'm going to show you guys all of these techniques, but my little stitch marker is right there. You can see it, right there. And it marks the beginning of my round. Then Maria is asking us, Maria the designer is asking us to work 6 centimeters or 2.4 stitches. Sorry, inches. Stitches, inches in rib stitch. So that's K1 and P1. You can be a little adventurous if you don't want to stick to the original pattern and you prefer this particular look. You can be a little bit, adventurous and do a 2x2 ribbing like me. I always love the 2x2 ribbing because I feel like it has a little bit more dimension and it's a little bit more stylish, It's a little bit more, it's not as minimalistic. It's a little bit, it has a little zhuzh, even though it's not something super crazy, right? So you can do that. You can also do a twisted rib, so P1, K1, but you twist the stitches. I am personally not a fan of that style, and I know that this is very controversial because everybody loves the twisted rib stitch. I cannot, I just can't with it. I just don't like it. That's just, I just can't. I feel like it looks, I don't know. I just can't. I don't like it. And that's it. It's just it's a hot take actually, because a lot of people are gonna be like, did you hear what Jaya said in the craft and chat? She doesn't like the rib stitch, the twisted rib stitch, but I just don't. It's just not for me. And that's totally fine. If it's for you, totally fine, just not for me. Then we have then we have to work in stockinette stitch. So that means we only have to knit. We don't have to purl. We don't have to do anything. This is the what I call, for a more advanced knitters, a very, very brainless activity where you can watch TV or listen to a podcast or so forth. And then for the ones that are beginning to knit for the first time, this is the perfect opportunity to really, really, really exercise your knit stitch. I mean, you have to eventually become really, really good at knit stitching. So knit stitching, at knitting the knit stitch. So this is a really, really good exercise here. So yeah, work stockinette stitch in the round until the work measures about, and then you have a number of centimeters or a number of inches. In my case, it's 24 centimeters or 9.4 inches. I probably overdid it, and I made it way, way longer in this one. But that is because I did want to make, and Maria did mention, if you want the slipover to be shorter or longer, work until you reach your desired length. And I want this to be somehow, I was going to say shorter, but no, I wanted the opposite, longer. I want it to be somehow on the longer side because I want to hide my little belly, my little mama belly. So I'm knitting a little bit more than that. I don't know how much longer I've actually knitted it, but I think I'm probably gonna have to end soon the chunk I've done. So let me see. I have 10 centimeters for sure. Sorry, 10 centimeters. Then I have, okay, I have almost 20 centimeters, which is close to 8 inches. And I'm maybe gonna do a little bit more. And then, yeah, I think I'm gonna be doing 30 centimeters. But I also have to consider that this is gonna grow. So you have to really, that's why you have to wash and block your gauge swatch, because it is going to grow. So before you wash it and block it, which I actually forgot to do, before you wash it and block it, measure it and write down the stitch number that you have and the row number, because also in this particular case, the row counts. Because a lot of the times people are like, oh, like I just have to match the circumference number of stitches, but also rows if you are working like this and you need to know how long your project is going to end up looking. So make the swatch, measure it, write down your measurements, then wash it and dry it and block it, or wash it, block it, and dry it, and then measure again and see what the difference is. Then when we have reached our desired length, close this. We have reached our desired length, we have to cast off or bind off stitches for the armholes and divide the work into front piece and back piece. And then she explains how. And this is what I'm probably going to have to figure out. So she says bind off 5 stitches, knit, or by the way, I'm reading my sizing. So read for if you're following along, read for your sizes. So you have to bind off 5 stitches. You have to then knit 17 stitches, which will be the back piece, then bind off another 5 stitches, and then knit another 70 stitches for the front piece. Now in this particular case, mind you, I have I have 10 stitches more, 10 stitches extra. So I'm actually going to I need to make the math. Then I'm probably going to have to bind off 6 stitches for the armhole. And then, okay, I'm going to have to do the math here. I promise next time I will do the math. So if you do want to make a larger size for next time, I will have the math ready for you if you are making a 3XL like I am. And then once we have done this, we're going to put the back stitches on hold. That means that you have to have either an additional cable to put them on hold, or you can use a little a little piece of strand of like yarn that you have laying around in a different color to hold those stitches together. Putting the stitches on hold means that you are not going to touch those. You're just going to knit a different part of the garment. So now that we've put the back pieces on hold, we're going to work the front piece. Now the front piece will work even until the armhole measures, in my case, 21 centimeters. That's 8.3 stitches. And then we're going to end up on the wrong side row. And remember, once we put those stitches on hold, the pain will begin for those who really hate purling, because the front piece and the back piece are worked back and forth, which means we're not working in the round anymore. It means that you have to, on the right side, which in the pattern is noted as RS, on the right side, we are going to be knitting. So we're going to be doing only the knit stitch. But once we flip our work, on the wrong side, we are going to be purling. So only purl stitch. So like she said here, the front piece, we have to work until the armhole measures a certain amount of centimeters or inches, and then we are going to end up on a wrong side row. Then she also says that now it's time for decreases for the neckline, which means that from the wrong side, we are going to be knitting an amount of stitches, casting off an amount, and then knitting off an amount. Because remember, we're working like this until, let's say, under the boobies, right? And then we have put our stitches to rest in the back. So we're working like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then we get to somewhere where we actually have to start off leaving a piece, like some stitches here that are not worked. So that means that we're going to be working like this, casting off, working like this, and then we're going to start working only one panel up, I think. Yes. So she's saying bind off for the neckline. So we're going to knit 28 stitches in my case. We're going to cast off or bind off 14 stitches. BO and CO are the same, by the way. Knitting, binding off or casting off, same thing. And then knitting another 28. And then we have to finish each row separately. So that means that now we are on the we have to purl one row because we've done the knitting, knit, cast, knit, and we're going to purl one row, and then we're going to start decreasing one single stitch at the neckline. So on this side here, following a specific number of rows. So in this case, in my case, 9 rows. So we're going to be knitting one, you knit one stitch, then you knit 2 together through the back loop, you knit 1, and then you knit to the end. And then you get this beautiful little edging over there. And then we have to work until we are left with only, in my case, 19 stitches. Then we're going to work another 8 rows in stockinette. So that means we're going to be knitting and purling back, knitting and purling back. And then put these stitches on hold. So once again, use a strand of yarn that you have laying around or a cable, and then just put them on hold. Then we're going to do the same for this side, but we are going to join the yarn. So that means that we need to have a new I was going to say set of yarns. We're going to have some new yarn, 3 strands of the kid silk we're working on, and we're going to join it. So that means that we are going to purl and join at the same time, and then we are going to purl that first row when we're joining. Then it's time to do the same thing as decreases, but this time it's flipped around. So this time we actually start with, I believe, knitting 3 stitches. Maybe I should read the pattern. Yeah, decrease 1 stitch as the neckline on the following. So knit until 3 stitches before the neckline. Okay, I think I was explaining the other way around. I was mirroring, so I was explaining the other way around. But yes, knit until 3 stitches before the neckline, then knit 2 together and knit 1. So you have to know the both decrease techniques for knitting. So you have to know through the back loop and then through the just two together. And that is because of the way it slants, the way the stitch slants, and it looks a little bit more neat and pretty. Then we're going to put these stitches on hold too as soon as we've done them. And then we are going to purl one row. So work the same procedure as for the front piece until the work is approximately 3 centimeters shorter than the front piece, and end with the wrong side row. Then we're going to bind off for the neckline. So once again, we're going to knit a certain amount of stitches and then bind off a certain amount of stitches and then knit more. And then we're going to join the shoulders with 3 needles by letting the wrong side of the piece face each other and using a third needle, knit 1 stitch from each needle together. K on or knit another 2 stitches together, pass 1 stitch over the other, and then continue like this until all of the stitches are bind off. Then we're going to add a rib for the neckline and a rib for the armholes. I mean, it's just going to be picking up a certain amount of stitches and then knitting those in the desired ribbing technique, and then weaving all the ends. So that is pretty much what we're going to be doing. And I know it might sound crazy, especially the whole thing with like first now this piece and then this piece and then we're gonna like do that, and don't worry, I promise to you that we're gonna figure it out together. So just get your yarn ready, find the colors you like, prepare all the materials you need, and we are gonna start next week. So it's gonna be quite a little bit until we can get started. You have still time to join in. So it's going to be a fun little challenge for Louisa, I think, as well, because she is going to be learning how to, and she's been looking so much forward to learning how to knit, especially like the proper way, because she has done some knitting in the past, but of course she just learned how to purl the correct way 2 weeks ago when we did our little a little swatching. So it is, it's a little bit of I think that making something like the Suki Slipover, it's a very, very nice project because things like t-shirts and things like vests are a very, very satisfying knit project because you don't have to make the sleeves, which means that you are there already saving a little extra time. And then you get to see, the results faster. And most importantly, you actually get to have a garment that you can wear. And this is not to be, by the way, we had a joke going on last time because I wrote something like, and then at the end of this KAL, you will have something to wear. You won't just be making another scarf. And I'm sorry about offending Louisa in a joking way, of course. But it's just because I know that usually when crafters learn a new craft, or even when normal people just want to decide to knit or crochet, then what do you do usually? You make a scarf. If you're a knitter, you're gonna end up knitting a scarf, and if you're a crocheter, then you're gonna probably end up doing a kitchen towel, right? Like a little washcloth or something. And it's annoying. It's really, really annoying because how much can you do with a kitchen towel? It's going to be used for the kitchen. It's going to get so dirty and oh, what a pity, right? All of that work. And this is probably because, the first project is never that nice and blah, 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 all of that. But I mean, how nice would it be to actually end up having a garment that you can use and wear proudly? And I think that overall, mohair is so forgiving. It's a very annoying, by the way. If you're a first time knitter, it's not easy because fluffy yarn is not easy to work with. So that is to keep in mind. So if you're getting frustrated at the yarn with like, you are in your right, because it can be very annoying. And frogging mohair, it's not anybody's cup of tea, believe me. But At the same time, you also have to keep in mind that mohair, in my opinion, or fluffy yarns, in my opinion, are quite forgiving because you actually, if you make a mistake, nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna notice, especially on such a big fluffy project. So contrary to what everybody says, I think mohair is a very, very um, friendly yarn, especially if you knit it with 3 strands, because then, you get more fluff and it's a little thicker. It's almost like it's a medium yarn weight. So yeah. And by the way, speaking of medium yarn weight, if you are interested in learning about yarn weights, or if you are interested in just having a listen to something a little bit more different, a little bit more, um, yeah, if you just want company while you are actually making your first Suki slipover with us, or if you are currently knitting or crocheting on a project before we start the Suki slipover and you want to get some company, then have a listen to our podcast. It is not officially yet released. It's going to be officially released on, when was it? Was it the 14th of April? I think so. That's when we set up the date. I'm just gonna double check. Yes, it's not gonna be okay. So you have this week and next week actually to have a listen to our podcast before it's actually officially released. It's kind of like a sneak peek. Not a lot of people know about it. Um, some people reached out to us last time when we had live shopping, and they had a link sent to them. So that was like first sneak peek. But if you guys are also watching and you're interested in the podcast, then please write pod-1. I think it's pod.1. Let me just check. Pod. Yes, it's pod 1 or pod-1. And we will send you a link to our super, super lovely little podcast. So this was the podcast was a baby of mine that I basically had been dreaming of for many, many years. Um, and we finally got the approval to make it, and it's been such a blast. The episodes I recorded and edited so far have been a lot of fun. All the research and learning about yarns, all of the ideas that I had also was kind of crazy because I had so many ideas that it was a little bit hard to choose which ones to work on first. Um, and also to note that this podcast is a little different than the usual crafters podcast that people are used to, because normally you hear, the typical podcast is usually 2 people, and they are talking about what they're knitting, and they're, giving advice to each other and talking about fibers and so forth. And I think that's super, super interesting to listen to. But I also think that if you are new to podcasts and you are searching for you're searching for a new media to keep you company while you craft, then picking up a podcast that maybe has, I don't know, 50, 40, 70, 100, 200 episodes can be very, very stressful. I think it's a good word to use it. Stressful because there's a lot of already, like, a lot of inside jokes, and there's a lot of um you have to follow a specific thread as well. You can't just you need to know those people, so you have to listen from the beginning, and then maybe it's overwhelming because there's already 200 episodes out. So the idea behind our podcast initially came because we wanted it to be very, very accessible. We wanted topics that are controversial, topics that not a lot of people might cover, and we wanted it to keep it quite detailed but concise at the same time, which was, trust me, a challenge. The first few episodes, the pilots that I had initially recorded were almost an hour long or 45 minutes long, or so it was a little bit of a challenge to do so. but I think that we ended up with a really, really beautiful product. I'm very, very happy about the topics we've released so far. I am also really, really happy about the segments we created because, of course, each episode has a topic that we talk throughout the whole episode, and then that topic is broken down by two, maybe sometimes three specific short little segments, and they're so much fun. So I'm excited for anybody to have a listen to it. And if you write pod one, we will send you a link to the podcast and you can have a listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon as well. So whatever you choose to go for it. And we hope to be also available on more platforms in the future. Those are just the ones that have been requested the most in the little questionnaires that we had sent out. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I feel like this spring there's a lot of fun things happening. There is the nice KAL with cami crochet going on with the beautiful shawl. There is this little Suki Slipover KAL that's happening that is a really, really impromptu idea that we had. And then there's also the podcast launching. It's just so many fun things coming up that I'm really, really excited. So remember, so you have one more week, basically, one more week to order your yarn or look through your stash if you're actually ending up using some of your own kid mohair or kid silk or mohair silk, whatever you want to call it. We are using the Friends kid silk, which is a beautiful, beautiful 72% mohair, 25% silk, and 3% wool. Um, and it's just super fluffy, super nice. These balls weigh about 25 grams. Yes, they weigh 25 grams and they run for 200 meters. So you have 218 yards. This is color 128, by the way. And this is color 127. These are new colors that have launched. I'm going to be starting on my green one as soon as next week knocks on our doors, and we're going to go live again on Thursday with Craft and Chat. So for those of you waiting to watch Matthias do quiz time next week, I'm so sorry. We're going to take over his slot. Mostly because Matthias needs a little break from streaming as well. He's doing so much. I mean, think about it. He is streaming every single day with I don't know how many hosts. So we decided that in April and beginning of May, he's just gonna get a little break from the quiz time. And then we're gonna go back to maybe him having a little few extra quiz time events for the rest of May. So we are gonna compensate. You will still see Matthias a lot on screen. Do not worry about that. And yeah, that was pretty much it for today's episode. I'm excited. I think that this one is gonna look super, super cute. The idea for me is that, let me see, I am going to also have this, I have a really, really beautiful shirt that I want to wear this vest with. I think it's gonna look cute, and with some jeans, it's gonna look a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm gonna try to recover from my little sickness until next week. It's nothing major. It's just sour throat and sour throat. It's just a sore throat, and yeah, I'm just feeling under the weather. Probably from Albert because he's been a little snotty the past few weeks, or the past week and a half actually. And so yeah, so it's a little bit of a challenge with a little baby that is getting sick all the time from his daycare, but it's gonna be totally fine. I'm sure about it. So yeah, that was pretty much it for today's little craft and chat. And if you are we're also, I'm so sorry for those of you who thought that we were going to start today. That was the initial plan, and now I'm pushing it one more week, but it's mostly because it's silly to start without Louisa. I mean, the point is the point of this event is for her to learn how to knit and make herself the Suki slipover, which she really likes a lot. So just be patient a little longer, and I promise that next week we will actually have we will start the event. And also next week I'm also going to make sure to have the 3XL and maybe even a 4XL math done for you guys in case you want to make a larger size. But remember, make a gauge swatch, measure it before you wash it and block it, then wash it and block it and measure it again, and then see what your result gives. And remember, you can always use AI for figuring out if yeah, if you need to adapt in a certain way, or what the result will be if you decide, you know what, I don't want to go down a needle size. I want to keep working with this 8 millimeter. How big is my um how big is my project gonna end up looking, you know? Then you can also do that. I love using AI for that, mostly for sizing, desizing, and all of the above. We actually have an episode on AI and crafting on our podcast, so make sure you give Skeen and Sal a listen. And yeah, that was pretty much it for me, Jaya from Hobby. Um, I loved chatting with you here in my living room, and I think it's time for us to end the stream, and it's time for me to go make dinner very soon because the sun is gonna go down any moment now. It's really beautiful now that it's spring, and it's finally only getting dark after 8-ish o'clock. Um, so that's also really nice. It's super beautiful today. Today was a very hot day. I think there's still 16, 17 degrees outside. It's Celsius, 17 Celsius to Fahrenheit is 62 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was a very hot day. Beautiful, no wind, blue skies, and blue still. And yeah, I'm gonna probably go end up making some dinner for my family, and then once the baby's asleep, I'm going to be knitting. They're out playing now, so I think it's time for me to wrap this up. But thank you so much for joining me, and I cannot wait to actually start this KAL with you guys. Remember, Suki one if you want to download the pattern, and now it's a free pattern. You can use your scrap kit silks. You can also go ahead and buy it by using code CC50 in the next couple of hours. I will try to extend the deal for 24 hours, but I'm not going to promise anything because it is 50% off. So it's a, it's a deal that we can maybe do once a month, and so yeah, but please take advantage of it. Stack up on your kid silks. And oh my god, and before I go, this is a perfect timing, a perfect ending. Next week I'm gonna bring you 2 new products. I'm gonna add these to the landing page CC50 so that you guys can actually get them now. They literally launched this morning, so I think nobody knows about them. We have the super cute pencil case with little flowers. I mean, talk about spring. Look at that. Mwah! Love it. So we have the little pencil case. There's 2 versions. There's a purple and a blue. I don't know which one I like most. I think I'm going to get the blue one. I think I'm going to get the blue one because it's really cute, but the purple is also so cute. Oof. I don't know. Okay, so we have that one. And then I also have, ta-da! Oops, ta-da! I have a new bento bag. Look at that cutie patootie. All right, so that's a bento bag where you can actually carry your projects. I know that they're in super vogue right now. They're in fashion. A lot of people use bento bags for their projects, and it's just super, super cute. So I'm adding these two to the landing page to CC50, so you can get 50% off on them right now as a limited edition kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it for today for me. And I think I'm gonna say bye-bye now and see you guys very, 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 very soon, in about a week.